How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. Doing good.
Good man, good man. How have you been? Been training and everything?
Yeah, right now I'm in Florida. I came here for 2 weeks to get some training with the guys at Sanford MMA,
Yeah,
and has been going really good. I'm looking, to fight again this year, so I want to stay sharp.
yeah, definitely. It's good to stay sharp, especially with everything going on, because like you could get a call literally at any minute at this time, with fighters dropping out with coronavirus and stuff like that.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, with times like this, you never know what's gonna go on, and if I can get a big opportunity, and get called for something short notice, I want to make sure that I'm ready to take that. So, got to keep sharp always.
And obviously, Diaz was a fight that you wanted. You wanted Nate Diaz, and he's actually booked now again with Masvidal. What do you think of that fight?
I think it's a fight. The first fight was pretty decisive. I think Masvidal showed that he went in there and won, I think, every round. And I don't know if it makes sense, but at the same time, it's a fight that people want to see. I know that their styles, match well in a way. And I get it that that fight's going to happen. I would love to fight either of them. I think that I match up really well with either of them. It would be a hell of a fight. But anyways, it didn't happen, so I'm going to keep working my way up. I know eventually I'm going to get to that point where they are going to want to call my name. So I'm going to wait for that.
Yeah, of course. And who's obviously an ideal opponent in your head for the next fight now that Diaz is taken? Or is it anyone that they give you?
Man, there are two guys that I think that would make a lot of sense. One, it's unfortunate for him. He has no other fight. Leon Edwards, I think I would love to fight him, especially because it's a rematch. Many years have gone, after he beat me. So I think nowadays I'm ready to get that rematch and get a win over him. So I think that would be a great fight for me. And for him, he hasn't, at this point, there isn't much other places to go. So, I think he has to fight and stay active. So I think it would be a good fight for him as well. And another name would be Chiesa. I think Chiesa is a guy that he has, I don't know if he has one or two fights. I think one fight in this division. And I think it makes a lot of sense for me to fight him. He hasn't proved so much at 170. He's a guy, really good 155er, but in 170, he still has, to face some tough guys. And I think I'm that tough guy for him to face. And for me, it makes sense. He's on top of me on the ranking, so I definitely want to face him.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the Leon Edwards fight, I think since you last fought him, you're 8-1, and your only loss being to Wonderboy. So, yeah, that would be a good fight. But obviously, Leon's calling for a big name and stuff like that, which is kind of not really working for him at the minute, I wouldn't say, because he's not fighting, like you said.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard in this division, right now. So many big names and so many people coming from other divisions up to 170. So, it's hard. I understand the Leon situation. I'm a kind of guy that, I haven't been getting the names I wanted. I haven't been getting guys in the rankings. I wanted to get, big names so I could move up quicker. But at the same time, we got to stay active. So that's what I've been trying to make sure I stay active so I'm still relevant in the division. And I feel like Leon, maybe he needs to take a fight right now. He has been, I don't know, over a year maybe without fighting,
Yeah,
a little bit more than that. So I think that, I don't know. It's his decision. I'm up to the fight. If he needs somebody to fight, I'm ready to step in there, and get that rematch.
Yeah, and one other person that's been publicly stating that he's ready to fight is Wonderboy, and obviously you were actually his last fight, and I think you've had 2 fights since then. So would that be on the cards to have a rematch with Wonderboy if he was up for it?
Definitely, definitely. I would love to rematch. He was the last guy to beat me, and it was a fight where I felt really good in the first round, but then he showed me, a different level of striking, a different level of fight IQ on that second and third. But at the same time, I feel like with a little bit of adjustment, with some corrections in the game plan, I can beat him. So I think it would definitely be a great fight. I would love to get that fight again, a rematch against Wonderboy. I don't know if he would want it because I was his last opponent. So it kind of like for him is like, I'm gonna fight the same guy, and where do I go from here? You know,
Yeah,
and if he loses to me, it's really not good for him. So I don't know. It's a fight that I would take. I don't know if the UFC would be interested in making it right now.
And obviously, there's like a few other names. One other one that I picked up on was Neil Magny. That's had a quite good year so far. He could be a possible another opponent.
Yeah, definitely. I think Magny is. I was scheduled to fight him last year, and I think he's a great opponent, especially coming off a win like he did now against Robbie Lawler, who was a great champion.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's an opponent that does bring a lot of credit to me. If I go out there and get a good win over him, it will give me a lot of name in the division. But at the same time, I'm looking forward. So if I can get somebody forward, that's definitely where I'm going to go to. But if it doesn't happen, I think Magny is a fight that can happen for sure.
Yeah, definitely. And all this talk about fights that could happen would happen. But if in your mind, if you had like a dream fight with someone past or present, who would you choose? Who would you be your dream fight?
Dream fight has to be with George St. Pierre. I mean, he's the most dominant 170 guy, welterweight, of all times, in my opinion. I think it's going to be hard for somebody to get to that level. So, beating him would be kind of like, okay, I'm at that level,
Yeah.
So that would be the dream fight. But at the same time, it's really hard. I don't think he's going to get back. And even if he does, I don't know if it's going to be at welterweight. I don't know if it's going to be the same St. Pierre that was so dominant in the past. So, it's the kind of fight that we can only dream of.
Yeah, of course. And obviously your teammate and close friend Gilbert Burns is eventually going to be fighting for the welterweight title. Hopefully, I don't know if anything's signed yet, because I think news got released and then he tweeted something like, "It's not signed yet. I haven't signed nothing." But yeah, he's eventually going to be fighting for the bout. And obviously your goal is one day to get to the bout. Is that a fight that would ever happen? Because obviously we know Usman and Burns are sort of friends and they train together. So did you have any have you spoke to Burns at all about, we could possibly fight one day, or is that something that you'd never do?
No, that's something we've talked about, and it's a little bit different because we're not only like friends, but we're always there for each other. We help each other in every camp. We corner each other. Our families are really friends. So I know his kids. They know my wife. We're always having fun together. So we're like brothers. So there is no way we could fight, because I don't know. It wouldn't be possible. In there we would just not want to hurt each other.
Yeah.
So we've talked about it, and we always say like whoever gets the title first keeps that title until the next one gets there, and then we got to figure out who someone maybe moves up or moves down division, goes for another title, and we're gonna make it work out for sure. And I believe there's nothing signed from what I know, but they are working on that fight. I think that's the Dana White has made sure that that's gonna be the next title fight, him against Usman. And I think he's going to get that title. I believe that he has the skill set to be the champion. So he'll hold that title until I get there, and then we'll see what we do.
Yeah. And obviously you're still only 28 as well, so you've got a long time left in the game. So how does it feel being in your position, knowing you're ranked number 10? You've had so many great fights already, highlight fights in your career. And how does it feel to be in your position, knowing you've got maybe another 5 to 10 years left in your fighting career?
I mean, it's really good. It's something since the beginning of my career, when I started at 17. I started really young professionally, but I always kind of felt like I need to rush things. Not rush in a bad way, but I always wanted to get to the UFC as soon as possible. I always wanted to get to the title as soon as possible, and in that way, I had some losses where I had to take a step back and learn from that. But at the same time, I think that because I wanted to get there so quick, I'm able to be where I am now and still be young, still have a long career ahead of me. So I think everything worked out good. Nowadays, I understand timing. I understand I have to learn, my lessons. I have to put on the work before I get all the way to the top. But at the same time, it's great that I got here so young, that I'm able to be positioned in number 10 at 28 years old. And I know I still have a lot to grow, a lot to improve as a fighter. So I believe, you know, I can have a great career and be a great champion and still develop into more things, you know, in MMA.
Yeah. And obviously, I just mentioned you had so many good fights. Which one out of all the good fights that you would you pick as your favorite?
Man, it's a tough one to say because I have really good fights.
Mm-hmm.
I love watching my fights, but Barberina for me is a special one because mentally I grew a lot from that fight. I had to go to places I didn't know I had to survive that fight and to get the finish at like 6 seconds to finish the fight, you know. So it was definitely something more than just a fight. It was a learning experience about myself, about what I can do and how much I can push myself. So that's my favorite one.
Yeah, it's one of my favorites as well, to be honest. And obviously, back onto your teammates, like Michael Chandler just signed with UFC yesterday, and he's actually the backup fight for the Khabib and Justin fight. What did you think of all that? Because obviously you train with him.
Man, I thought for him, it's awesome. For us as a team, it's great. And I think the UFC, you know, did a great move. He is in the world, he's the top 155er. So I definitely think it makes sense that he is right there to fight for the title. You know, if everything, you know, goes as planned, he's not going to fight against one of these guys. But I'm sure that he's going to fight a top name and get a win, and he's going to go for the title right after that. It makes sense. He was a dominant champion, had great wins over great guys. He had, you know, 2 or 3 battles, I don't remember, against Eddie Alvarez, who later became the UFC champion. So that shows, you know, he can definitely be a UFC champion and a dominant one. And when you think about it, him against Khabib is such an amazing fight because Michael Chandler is an awesome wrestler. And, you know, that's his background. So it's not going to be an easy fight for Khabib. It's that kind of name that can really bring trouble to Khabib. And that's what we want to see, you know. He has been so dominant. We got to see somebody bring that challenge. And I think Michael Chandler is that kind of challenge for Khabib.
Yeah, definitely. And how is it for you to train with all these people like Burns and Chandler and then previously Usman?
I think that's just I've always believed that, you know, the people that you surround yourself with, the people that you train are going to bring you to that next level. And over here at Sanford MMA, that's what we see. I mean, everybody back in the day, before we were in the UFC, we were training together. And now you see everybody at a really high level in the UFC. So it just makes sense and proves that, yeah, you got to work with tough guys, and that's going to bring you to the next level. Not necessarily guys that have big names, but you got to see, because eventually they're going to have big names. In the past, me, Gilbert, Kamaru, we were not in the UFC, but we trained together. And now we're all at the top of the division. So I think that, you know, it's just hard work and working with the right people. That's going to take you further in your career and get you to the level you need to get to compete. And that's what we do over here.
Yeah, it's definitely great to have that mindset and have everything around you to like develop that mindset into being like just a necessity instead of just like what you've got to do.
Yeah, for sure.
So that's all the questions I've got for you, but can I just get a couple of fight predictions from you, if that's all right?
Yeah, for sure. Let's do it.
Yeah, so first off, we've got the one tomorrow night, Covington against Woodley.
I think that fight, man, I don't know. I'm going to go with Covington just because of the moment. I feel like Covington still wants to get that title fight, still wants to, you know, get to the top. And Woodley is kind of in a, I don't know, he didn't look good in his last 2 fights. Obviously, he was fighting the top of the competition, so it's not easy to look good against Kamaru or Gilbert. But at the same time, you never know. He was a dominant champion, and once you lose that title, sometimes you lose that drive. So we got to see. If he doesn't have that drive, I think Kobe is going to be the winner. So I would bet on Kobe on this one.
Yeah, I agree with that. And then Israel Adesanya against Paulo Costa.
I think that's going to be an amazing fight, especially because I know that Paulo is not going to let it be like, you know, a boring fight. It's not going to be like Adesanya against Romero. He's just going to push the action no matter where the fight is. He's going to push the action. So I think it's going to be a great fight. tough call on who's the winner. You know, I'm going to go with Paulo for a little bit, and I would say maybe a knockout in the 3rd round.
Yeah, it is a tough one. It's a very tough one, that one.
Yeah.
And then Khabib versus Justin.
Khabib and Justin, that's also a tough fight. I love Justin's style. You know, he just goes in there and puts on the pressure. He's not afraid of anyone. And his last fight, he looked really good, especially like fight IQ. He was able not to take damage and inflict a lot of damage on Tony. So I don't know. I would say that he can make something happen, but I still go with Khabib on the decision.
Yeah, I agree with that one as well. And then obviously you've already said about Usman Burns. You've got Burns to win that, yeah?
Yeah, I got Burns on that one. And, you know, the thing is, Burns brings a really different aspect that is the jiu-jitsu game. So even though I believe he can be taken down, Kamaru will take him down. Once he's down, he's not just going to sit there and take ground and pound or kind of lose points, you know. He will be looking for submissions, for sweeps, to get up, and that's really tricky. So when you're a wrestler and you want to get somebody down and hold him there, but you're fighting a guy with that level of jiu-jitsu, it's really hard. And at the same time, if they decide to fight on the stand-up, I think Gilbert is a little bit more explosive and has more power, so I think he brings that danger, you know, against Kamaru, where I believe Gilbert can get a knockout. So I see him, you know, I think he can win either by decision or by a knockout or submission. So he's really versatile in that fight. I go with Gilbert.
Yeah, I find it really difficult to pick with that fight because I feel like they're both are very similar fighters in ways, aren't they?
Yes, they're really similar. I mean, and they've trained together for so long that kind of like builds it builds that similarity, you know. They have good fundamentals, basically the same kind of fundamentals, like good striking, intelligence, you know, in the fight, good wrestling, obviously a different level for each, but both have great wrestling, good jiu-jitsu on both sides. Both are black belts. Obviously, you cannot say like the level of Gilbert is at another level because he's a world champion. But overall, as MMA fighters, they are really well matched. So it's a tough pick. I go with Gilbert just because I've trained with both. I have, you know, a little bit of like the inside vision. I think Gilbert has the tools to make Kamaru. I'll never know. Kamaru is a tough competitor. So, you know, it's a tough pick. I go with Gilbert.
It's going to be a great one. And unless there's anything you want to say to any sponsors or anything, then that's all I've got for you, mate.
Oh, man, only thank my teams, you know, Sanford MMA and Cerrado MMA in Brazil, who always has my back. Through this year, I've had all my camps over there, and they've been great to me. You've seen in my fights, I go out there and do what I do because of my teams, you know. So thank them, and thank all the fans for always supporting me. I fight to put on a great show for the fans, so I thank you guys for that.
Yeah, and thank you for giving me your time and coming on and chatting with me. I hope to see you back in the octagon this year, if not next year.
For sure. Thank you. Appreciate it.